Hey there guys, my name's EarthToLydia and welcome back to another How to Loop video. Today we're focusing on the newest map in the game, Midwich Elementary School of the Silent Hill realm. This is quite possibly the most difficult indoor map to run for survivors, but thankfully not completely unloopable. Before we get into the video, I just want to tell those of you that don't already know that I'm a full-time Dead by Daylight streamer on Twitch. I'm currently doing a partner push, so if you could make it down to a stream at twitch.tv/EarthToLydia, that would really help me out, and you can also interact with me directly. Otherwise, if you like this video and want to suggest another, you can tell me down in the comments. I'm thinking of doing the next one on how to loop on Leary's, so if you want to see that, make sure to let me know and also subscribe for when it goes live. Alright, so let's start with the basic layout of the map. This is another rectangular map, but similarly to Gideon Meat Plant, it has 2 floors. Having said that, the drop down and elevation points on this map aren't as glaringly obvious or as accessible as they are on the game. So before we get into anything else, let's first understand which areas you can use to go between the 2 floors. First of all, there are 2 main staircases located in this map. These staircases are on the opposite side of the map to one another, one positioned directly behind the main clock tower in the courtyard, and the other is, of course, in the corner opposite the clock tower. On the top of one of these staircases is a vault point on the 2nd floor, which I wouldn't really recommend trying to vault if you're being chased up the stairs by the killer, as you'll only be able to medium vault, and if the killer is close enough to you, they'll be able to hit you mid-vault, or if the killer isn't that close to you, all they need to do is turn around and they'll either hit you as you're dropping or while you're recovering from the drop. If you're running along the hallway and are able to get a fast vault on the window, then this is going to give you some huge distance on the killer without even running glide or balance landing. If you're running either of those 2 exhaustion perks though, they're only going to make things easier for you. At the other staircase, you'll notice another flight of stairs leading up to the 3rd floor, otherwise known as the roof. Do not run up this staircase in a chase, as it leads to a dead end. This pretty much guarantees a free hit for the killer if they see your scratch marks going up there. The chemistry lab is a classroom on the 2nd floor, which is located in a hallway that has a lot of upturned school lockers. Inside the classroom, you'll find a hole in the back corner which drops you down into one of the exit gates below. This is a one-way drop with no way of getting directly back up to the classroom, so it's not the best place to drop unless you've got balance landing ready, but there is a pallet loop at the bottom of the drop. The bathrooms also tend to have a hole in one of the cubicles which serves as a drop down point. Again, this is only a drop down point. Once you drop, you'll not be able to access the 2nd floor again from here. Having said that, there is an elevation point behind the bathrooms behind a breakable wall, which does allow you to gain access to both floors. However, this is entirely dependent on whether or not the killer breaks these walls. If not, then you won't be able to use this. In the library room on the 2nd floor, there is also an elevation point made from debris. This is accessible from both the 1st and 2nd floor, so you can always loop back down again if you've used one of the loops in one of these rooms. One of the exit gates has several drop down points from the 2nd floor. To make it a little easier to determine which exit gate this is, there's a lot of red lights in this gate, whereas the other gate is mostly grey-green in colour. One of those points is accessible through the locker room, and the other 2 are accessible from the main corridor. From the hallway, there's a hole in the wall on the left and a window vault on the right. If you're approaching from the left, do not use this window vault, as the killer can use the closer hole to drop down and close the distance between you. If you're approaching from the right, where the window vault is closer to you, use this to your advantage, especially if you're using either lithe or balance landing. The killer will have to go a little bit further to drop down, by which you should have already recovered from the fall and can create more distance. There's also a drop down point in the courtyard from the 2nd floor, which is exactly opposite the exit drop down points. On this side, you have the window vault on the left and the full hole in the wall on the right. Therefore, everything that I said for the exit gate drop, do the exact opposite here. Before we go into anything else, it's really important to keep in mind the orientation of the map. For some reference, the music room and chemistry lab are on completely opposite sides of the map, and as mentioned earlier, the stairs are on the opposite sides to each other as well. Try to remember approximate locations and where you are in relation to these kinds of landmarks. That way you'll be able to keep track of which loops you've already exhausted or not. Most of the other classrooms on Midwich are made up of unsafe loops, meaning a lot of the time you'll have to be very aggressive with the gens, as it is harder to keep a chase for a long time without throwing a whole bunch of pallets. One of the strongest loops in this map is actually found in the bathroom. However, once this is broken, you will find yourself cornered if the killer breaks the pallet with your back to the wall. Other than this, there is a very strong window spawn which spawns between 2 classrooms. The killer's only way of getting around this wall without vaulting the window is to walk all the way around, and often has to break a breakable wall. Avoid trying to continuously vault this window in quick succession, as it can be blocked off very easily, and if you stick around it, the killer can quickly close the gap. Instead, use this the same way that you do the vault point at the top of the stairs. Force the killer to take a longer way around, put some distance between the 2 of you, and get to a further looping point. Something else to consider is avoid running in the main hallways for too long. Every killer will be able to catch you eventually if you just run in a straight line. Don't get me wrong, if you have enough distance on the killer and you're running along the hallway to get direct access to another loop that you want to commit to, then that's good. But don't just keep on lapping the whole school hoping that the killer won't catch you, because they will. There is one pallet spawn at the bottom of a staircase that's an incredibly safe pallet and arguably the strongest in the whole map. Try to keep this pallet up for as long as possible and only throw it if you absolutely need to. Otherwise it could be a real lifesaver for someone else later in the game. The courtyard is a little underrated portion of the map. Don't avoid it. It's one of the only real places on the map with loops that have a total line of sight break from the killer. The loops aren't the absolute strongest in the game, but are still stronger than the likes of a Z-wall and can be used to gain a bit of time. You also have the advantage that this is away from most of the generators on the map. So if you're down to only 1 or 2 gens, looping the killer out here will keep them away from your teammate and allow them to work on the last gens uninterrupted. The only real downside that you have to consider is that you'll have quite a way to run to get to another loop after you've used the ones out here. So if you can get the killer to commit to an animation such as vaulting a window or breaking a pallet, then use this opportunity to run back into the main building and get yourself into a classroom if possible. Another solid little vault point is the window at the reception desk. Like the classroom vault window, you can use this to gain quite a bit of distance on the killer or to activate lithe. However, keep in mind that this vault is only strong while the breakable wall next to it is still up. Once the killer breaks that wall down, it's not a good option, and you can easily get yourself trapped into a corner. And on that note, definitely try to keep a mental note of which of the breakable walls have been destroyed, as they greatly determine the strength of certain loops. Midwich is definitely a bit of a trickier one to get to grips with, but there is quite a bit of potential. There are some of the window spawns, like a very difficult one in the red exit gate, but I highly recommend avoiding these wherever possible. They're essentially the Z-walls of this map, only more dangerous if anything, but that is about as far as learning to loop on Midwich goes. There are a couple of things that I left out, so if you guys have any more tips on how to run this, make sure to leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. All of my social medias, including the link to my Twitch and Discord server, are linked in the description down below. Thank you so much for making it this far into the video, and until next time, see you later guys.
Slick.